Alright, welcome back everybody to Fire Emblem. We have reached the stage that the magic seal shows up in. And we are going to do our darndest, our dandiest, our hardest to kill the magic seal and go to the level that I have not been to, I want to say ever. I may have done it accidentally one time or sort of cheated my way to doing it one time. But that is our goal here, is we're going to try to get to the secret level, which if you look on the guide that I saw it on, listed as whatever level this is, we'll say 19. Let's say this is 19X. Layla says 19XX, but I think in the game they just make it part 2 or something like that to make it easier to understand. So you can see I've substituted out, I've substituted my lords back in. I've got Marcus in here instead of Lowen because I kind of need a big boy. Otherwise I'm relying exclusively on critical hits. So I'll be relying on, say, Lynn using Manicotti to crit. I'm going to rely on Hector, who may not have the accuracy to do any, to do reliable damage, to actually hit and do like, say, 10-15 damage. And then I'm going to, of course, rely on Marcus to hopefully get in there and deal maybe double. I don't think he'll double, but get in there and deal some decent damage so that I can get him within a range that I can finish him off with someone like Guy or maybe Ellawood, because it's definitely not going to be Urk, because he's not going to be able to do anything in the magic skill. Priscilla can't, obviously not offensive character right now. So I don't know. We'll see. So, in weirder, happier news, I've been having some very, very, very good luck with Goodwill as of recent. And I don't mean Goodwill as in I'm going there to find movies or video games or anything else that people traditionally probably go to a Goodwill looking for. High-end brands that someone happened to donate because they have too much money and not enough sense. Or, I already wore that dress to such and such engagement. I couldn't be caught dead wearing it again in front of my friends. But, I've recently, I wouldn't say collecting it, because I'm certainly not collecting it, but I've recently found some very interesting, like beer mugs, if you will. I got this one off of the Goodwill near me, and it's a Hofbrau mug. It's kind of like a glass stein. You might see it like Oktoberfest or whatever. And probably not the best. Well, it's definitely not the worst version of a mug you'll ever see with the Hofbrau logo on it. It's perfectly intact with the Munich below it. There's no chips or it wasn't glued back together or anything, but I can see I can see where the seam is, which some people can't stand when they see glass seams. It doesn't bother me at all to have a seam on a glass, as long as it's not too noticeable. You at least did a little bit to try and, even some of that out. Anywho, I found this mug there. Everything at Goodwill is relatively cheap, I'd say. They sell their glasses, at least at Goodwill by me. They sell their glasses for either if they're regular, like they seem more like regular glass, they'll sell it for about $2 per glass. If it's something that seems like it's more like this off-bra mug, they usually sell it for closer to $4, like $3.90 something. But I went there because I was trying to find well, what I was looking for was an assortment of glasses that I could drink alcohol out of. First and foremostly being, I was looking for sort of like a curved whiskey glass, something that's kind of like you would if you ever look up the term brandy glass. It's kind of like that, but I wanted something smaller than brandy glasses tend to be a little bit bigger and wider, as if they hold more. I was looking for something smaller, like a small version of that. I did find one, which I think I mentioned I broke the stem on. Like, I went to put it in the sink, and it hits. I put it down sort of cockeyed, like diagonally. And as I'm putting it down, I hit the bottom of the glass, and the stem snaps right where the stem connected to the glass. Which I'm looking at the two glasses I picked up. You take your fingernail, you can definitely feel where the one piece was attached to the other, and it was not designed as a singular. It wasn't connected very well. Is at the very minimum, and at the very worst, it was just two pieces that looked like they were glued together. But like I said, I found this mug there, which I really like. Very nice. I've used it a couple times for beer. I actually had a Dunkel to drink recently, and it goes perfectly in this glass because Hofbrau Dunkel and a Hofbrau mug. Very nice. But I also recently, I went back there like a week or two later, maybe at most a month later, and they had Sam Adams mug. And they're not like the Stein mug that I'm sitting next to looking at, but it was more of like one of those like beer glasses, I guess. You know how you have I know there's a number of different ones that they have different looks. This one basically it starts out at the bottom. It's wider at the bottom where there's most of the glass. And then it comes up sort of like narrows out, and then this glass in particular comes up and it sort of does like a bell thing where it comes up and it widens out, and then it sort of comes like it's going to close off, and then before it closes off, like there's a big hole. I could put my whole fist through it, but it comes back out in like a kind of like a, I don't know if fluted's the right word, but I'm sure there's a name for this glass, but I'd have to look it up. So, anyways, they had 4 of them there, and I don't need 4 beer glasses. I took 2. I took one for regular use, and one is, say, a backup in case I either have a friend over, or I used the one, then I have another beer the next day, and I want to use another clean glass, the same clean glass, same glass type but clean. Then I'll have a backup one. I don't need 4 of them. They're just gonna end up taking up room in my house. I've got other glasses as well that you can use, just regular eyeball glass, whether that is sort of a straight eyeball, that goes sort of like a cylinder, or if it sort of has more of like a cone shape, where it's wider, it's narrower at the bottom and wider at the top. So. Called. It's kind of like there's a glass I'm looking at right now. It's called a Libby. It's kind of like that, but it goes up farther. It gets wider towards the middle top, and then it narrows out and has more of a fluted edge than that. Pilsner glass would be closer to it, I think, because the Pilsner glass starts out and widens out as you start getting towards the top, and then it starts to narrow a little bit as you get towards the very top or the rim of the glass. But it's even more pronounced than that, where as it goes up towards the top of like a Pilsner glass, what it ends up doing is it ends up fluting out a little bit more. Like a tulip glass a little bit, you know? And it's hard to explain or give a name to it because it kind of looks, like I said, like a Pilsner glass, but it's definitely more unique than that. But at the same time, you look at different glasses and different sort of like stemware, you can kind of compare it to like a you know, I don't even know what they call any of these glasses anymore. But it has that, you know, where there's a I think I mentioned this before. There's a glass that I had was looking at, and I sort of bought a knockoff version of, called a Glen McKellen glass that has sort of a wider bottom, and then it comes up in sort of a narrow area, and then flutes out, tulips out a little bit, so that all of the smell can sort of condense and be sort of navigated towards your nose, which that's the gimmick. Whether or not you want to truly play into that's the most important thing in the world, or if it's sort of a gimmick, you know, it's up to you. But there's all kinds of different things that I think people kind of serve stuff in that's kind of nifty. I really like the traditional, you know, beer mug. You know, with the, you got your handle. Sometimes you got like a little like thumb thing that it's got like little rivets on it to like really like feel like, oh yeah, I'm drinking Stein now. You know, Stella Artois glasses are kind of like a cross between, hey, you're gonna drink beer out of a wine glass, you know. I do, like I said, I do like the glass Stein, whether it be for root beer or for regular beer. You know, certainly you can't go wrong with a highball glass, or, you know, like a slightly, you know, whatever you want to call it, angled glass, traditional angled glass. I don't know, I don't really go too much weirder than that. You know, I kind of like, you know, your typical, you know, tall beer mug, you know, that does do that, you know, where it narrows in the middle or narrows towards the bottom, then sort of comes out a little bit wider at the top. Guinness mugs are another one that's kind of like that, except you sort of start out wide at the bottom and then it gets wider towards the top, which I guess is helpful for expressing the beer a little bit better. Dimple mugs are kind of fun too. I like those as well, particularly if you're having something like I'm thinking like an Oktoberfest or like a lighter summer bait beer. And you're getting together with buds, and you got like one of them stumpy glass. It's like a large coffee mug, like an actual tall mug, not like one of them fucking bowls that you sometimes see people where they've got a mug that's like 3 inches like 2 or 3 inches tall, but it's like 6 inches wide or something ridiculous like that. I mean, like a traditional coffee mug, you know, but you made it in see-through glass and give it little dimples. I like those too. Those are kind of nice. Some of these others are just sort of bizarre to me. As I said before, like, I get, you know, you want to have a nice, you want to be unique and drink a Stella Artois out of what is essentially, like I said, a cross between a wine glass and something else. And then, of course, having watched Beer Fest, I love Beer Fest, such a not as good as Super Troopers, but that movie's still good. It's still a good movie. And they drink out of Das Boot. Das Boot is such an interesting thing. I would not own a Das Boot in my house. But if given the opportunity to drink out of a Das Boot, you know, like a bar or like at a party somewhere, I would definitely give it a try. So, I don't know. I always find these things interesting. I mean, it's not all about alcohol and beer and the glasses you drink the shit in. You know, it's more like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not so pretentious that I gotta fucking drink. You know, I gotta take my beers and pop them open and put them in little martini glasses and drink them out of martinis to see how that feels. How does that aerate the beer? How does that make the bubbles go? You know? But at the same time, if you're gonna give me a slightly different take on something I'm used to, like a beer mug, but you add dimples to it, and you make it shorter like a coffee mug, like, that's nifty. I think that's nifty. You're thinking a little outside the box, but not so far that I'm like, okay, dude, okay, guy, I get it. You're the guy who drinks his beer one shot glass at a time. I get it, and you're cool. You know? But so we're gonna, like I said, try to murderize the seal, the magic seal here. First things first, we gotta eliminate the sniper. The snipers are possibly the most dangerous thing on this board. Even more so than the boss, who for some reason did not want to use bolting on me, even though I was in his range. Very strange. Not exactly sure what happened there in Hector's hard mode. But, yeah. So we want to, like I said, we're going to try to set ourselves up. That's 4 damage there. Matthew's not going to make it here. It's going to be, yeah, I'm looking at a 51% chance of doing, a 50-50 shot of doing like 20 damage. And then Lynn's going to have somewhere in the ballpark of like a 20-30% chance of critting with Manicotti. So she's not going to do a ton of damage, but if I can pop the crit, you know, she's going to do maybe 15-20 damage. I know 15 doesn't make sense because you multiply any number by 2, you're going to get an even number. Yeah, I'm sizing him up right now. I did give Hector the silver axe, as you see. That's specifically for this takedown, because it is the strongest, not the lightest weapon that he can wield, but it's the strongest weapon I have available to me that he can wield. Short of his obviously his signature weapon, his Wolf Beal, would have been ideal, but I'm not certain. It would have given me a chance at a crit, but I'm not sure it would have been really any more accurate or damaging than what I've got rolling with the silver. So, and we can be pretty sure that because he's the magic seal, and you get a super special item for knocking him out of the park. Well, you don't get an item. He's just really hard. You're not going to double. We're probably not going to double with either Lynn. We may double with Lynn, but we're probably not doubling with anybody else. We'll have to see. So there's 10, no double. Lynn's doing 5, no double. So if she doubles, it'll be 10 damage. Marcus. At the start. Alright, that's good too. So we're down to 19. Alright, 11. So now Lynn has to crit. I guess critting does more than 2 times damage then? Maybe it's triple. Maybe it's just weapon type that differs. Here's another interesting little factoid. When the magic seal is on, he actually is giving a bit of a buff to the boss here. It makes it more difficult for me to hit him. But when the magic seal disappeared just now, it's actually going to make it easier for Eliwood to clean up the boss here. So where he was not previously doubling, he's going to double now. Or maybe it's because I'm going to bring Hector over and he's going to be able to double. Because he's closer to Hector. And Hector gives Eliwood the butterflies in his belly. Merlin is almost dead. But sticking around after, what? That was like 5 attacks from mages. Kind of ridiculous. Also, that was a very nice skill for her. Yeah, so there's 16 there. There's 22 there if he hits both of them. Can't retaliate because he's holding bolting. Nice. We're going to bring Hector over in about a turn or two. Well, we're going to bring him over now, but in about a turn or two, we'll capture the map depending on what I do with Priscilla and what I decide to do with Urk. I could technically... Well, I'm going to heal, obviously, with that, but I'm not sure if I want to bring... I want to bring Priscilla up and in where she could possibly be taken out by mages. Or if I just want to kind of kill the character, you know, kill a couple mages, and then on the next turn, say, use... I think that's what I'll do. I'll use Priscilla to heal Merlinus. Provided Merlinus survives, we'll kill one more mage, and then we'll just call the rest of this a wash. Because I don't want to accidentally kill, like I said, I don't want to accidentally kill Urk or Priscilla because the game rolled the averages and realized that if they all ganged up on him, they could do just enough damage to kill one of them. That's what we'll do. Finish this off, and we'll move on to Gaiden chapter number 2. Which will require me to actually do some talking because I've never played that level before on stream or on video.